It's Wednesday, October 16, 2019, and this is Globespan 24x7 News. Good evening and thanks for joining us. My name is Shakima Day, coming to you live from Georgetown, Guyana. Here are the major headlines for today. Chief Justice denies orders seeking President Cabinet to resign. Two Tucson men nabbed by police with over 90 pounds of marijuana. Businesswoman shot during robbery at C&F Harbor Bridge Mall. President explains decision behind COI into horrific East Bank Demerara accident. And man who killed mother-in-law and stepdaughter gets life in prison. Over to you, Whitney.
Thank you, Shakima. Good evening. Turning our attention to headlines in the region and around the world. Regional and international business sector moving in quickly to set up shop in Guyana. Baby struck in head with wooden plank in Trinidad and Tobago. A no deal will be made tonight as it relates to the Brexit talks in the United Kingdom. And Hong Kong's pro-democracy leader has been hospitalized after being attacked. Join me in a short while for these stories and more. But here's Kingsley Bryan first with headlines for Sport News.
Thanks, Whitney. Here's a look at some of the stories we'll be covering in tonight's Sportscast. Warriors King and Trident's Walsh Jr. to make West Indies international debut. Also, Sparta Boss is set to do battle against Charlotte Street. And Fraser Price shortlisted for 2019 IAAF Female World Athlete of the Year Award. These stories and more in the Sportscast. Back to you, Shakima.
Thank you, Kingsley. And now for a look at the news. Chief Justice Roxanne George Wiltshire on Wednesday determined that the request of former Attorney General Anil Nandlal to deem the President and his cabinet resign following the successful passage of the December 21, 2018 no confidence motion is misconceived. The acting Chief Justice in handing down her ruling said that the presentation of such an argument was baseless. Chief Justice acting George Wiltshire said this application is not only wholly misconceived, it is vexatious and an absolute abuse of the process of the court. Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Basil Williams said government is pleased with the ruling and it since validates several stances that were taken by the coalition.
The decision of the Lord Chief Justice has restored the position with the rule of law in Guyana. And it's a very important principle for a hierarchical system of courts that you follow precedents. And the principle of stare decisis is that you follow the precedents set by the higher courts. And since the CCJ had already determined this issue, whether the cabinet and the government should resign, it was not fit nor proper, and it was of no legal effect for you to come to the lowest court to seek to have that decision of the court, CCJ, the apex court, overturned.
Minister Williams also added that he fully agrees with the learned CJ's opinion that the constant run to the court is quite vexing.
Our courts are exhibiting great patience, as I see it, because this is a matter that has been ventilated within the last maybe 8 to 9 months in Guyana and in the courts, all the courts, Court of Appeal, CCJ. And to me, the Lord Chief Justice was correct by saying it's a vexatious matter, you know. And Mr. Nandlal has to be careful that he does not become a vexatious litigant, because he was part and parcel of the representation of the leader of the opposition at all levels, CCJ, Court of Appeal, High Court. And it is not fit for him and right for him as an officer of the court to try to seek to come to the first instance judge and try to raise the same issue.
Williams added that the courts should not be abused and the CCJ never illegitimated the coalition government, but the government today remains restricted in their actions in compliance with the CCJ's ruling. The Chief Justice relied heavily on the CCJ in its consequential orders of July 12. She stated that, open quote, the pronouncements of the CCJ and the orders made in the consequential judgment of July 12 must be read dispassionately and objectively, and while the applicant may be dissatisfied with the conclusion of the CCJ, he cannot seek to overturn or reinterpret it by filing an application such as this, close quote. Given the paragraph, the learned Chief Justice determined that there could not have been and cannot by any requirement by for mandatory order compelling the President and Cabinet to resign. However, attorney for the opposition Anil Nandlal expressed his shock and disappointment with the court's ruling.
This is indeed a shocking ruling. Every Guyanese by now must be aware of the clear language of Article 1066 of the Constitution. That is, that upon the successful passage of a no-confidence motion, the President, inclusive of the Cabinet, inclusive of the President, shall resign. Mandatory, clear, unambiguous language. And here it is. We have approached the court. There's a Cabinet that's refusing to resign. And the Constitutional Court of the country is telling us that because the CCJ did not make that order, then forever we are in perpetual error. In other words, the doctrine of precedent and the doctrine of stare decisis are now superior to the Constitution of the country. The Constitution is the supreme law, not no ordinary principle of stare decisis or doctrine of precedent. Those are elementary, very low-rank principles. The Constitution is the supreme law of Guyana, and that, unfortunately, is not being upheld by the court. So this decision must be appealed in the interest of constitutionality, and it certainly has plunged the country in deeper constitutional crisis.
President Granger, on the sidelines of the accreditation ceremony for the new German ambassador to Guyana, had posited that the circumstances are different and require an entirely different approach to ensure the government functions within the confines of its constitutional limitations, despite the court's ruling.
In this instance, on today, the 16th of October, I don't see the likelihood of that arising. The country cannot be without a government. The country cannot be without a president. And our interpretation of the Constitution is that I remain president until another president is elected after the general election. We've decided on a date for the general elections. And we have obeyed the orders of the CCJ in that we have complied with the conventions for interim administration. So we are behaving ourselves, and we are not engaging in projects. I haven't traveled overseas apart from my health examinations. We are not planning a budget. By this time we would have completed our budget. So we are an interim administration, and I'm observing those regulations. But the country cannot be without a government, and I cannot be removed unless elections are held.
Chief Justice Roxanne George Wiltshire made her determinations by applying the principle of stare decisis, which is the legal principle of determining points in litigation according to precedent. As expressed, the opposition intends to have the CJ's ruling appealed forthwith. Meanwhile, fresh out of the numerous legal challenges, the Guyana Elections Commission may once again be in need of the court's advice in determining key issues that may have been a bone of contention among the commissioners. Kingsley Bryan provides an in-depth analysis of the situation there in this report.
Following yet another lengthy meeting of the Guyana Elections Commission on Tuesday, commissioners left torn apart on what will be done with the identifications cards that have not been uplifted since 2008, and how to treat with those persons who have not verified their registration during the ongoing claims and objection exercise. In this regard, government-nominated Commissioner Vincent Alexander said that the Commission is exploring a method that will highlight persons who fail to complete their verification.
Invitation to electors who did not participate in the house-to-house exercise, whose names are on the preliminary list. to come forward and do a verification. Which verification, if not done, could result in their names being highlighted on the eventual voters list. So there'll be no deletion of names, but the names will be highlighted on the eventual voters list.
But PPP nominated commissioners contend that if that approach is taken, countless persons would be disenfranchised.
So they're trying the hardest they can to get as many people as they can not to exercise their franchise. You can't disenfranchise people. And that's a battle I will fight to the last breath. Okay? So we didn't come to a decision.
Shadick stressed that a highlighted name on the list will obviously arouse questions in the minds of presiding officers and create much confusion.
Because if you go highlight somebody and somebody in some polling station does not allow that person to vote, then what remedy you got? You got to go for an elections petition which never gets heard. You know what I mean? So all of this is what antagonizes people. And what we want is for people to be satisfied that there is a process that is fair to everybody. But apparently, there are some people who don't care.
Another contentious matter that was heavily debated at yesterday's meeting was the Commission's proposed decision to have those persons removed from the list who have not uplifted their ID card following the 2008 registration exercise. On this issue, Commissioner Shadick is insistent that failure to uplift your identification card is not reason enough to be omitted from the National Registrar of Registrants.
There's a law that says you can deregister people, but then they got rules that say what deregistering means. The person dies or the person goes mad, right? Not because they ain't come to collect the ID card.
Alexander in his arguments rejected the suggestions that the removal of the names of persons from the NRR merely because they have not collected their national ID cards will potentially disenfranchise persons. Rather, Alexander said the use of uncollected ID cards would be as a method for objection.
Using the ID card issue to determine the presence of our voters, their existence, it's like an objection. So the issue is not the ID card. The issue is that these persons, since 2008 and beyond 2008, have not in any way presented themselves to be present, to be known, to be alive, to be existing, to be resident. And the calling them, writing to them gives us an opportunity to make a determination in the context of like an objection as to where are they? Are they here? Are they real people at this time?
Commissioner Ben, in his remarks, also said this process would deny many eligible persons the opportunity to prevent themselves as a voter.
On the question of the cancellation of the 20,000 or whatever ID cards, clearly there may be some persons who exist. There may be some who would have died. There may be some who are not in the country at the moment. But if they come in during an elections process, they have a right to vote since they are already on the NRR. And the removal of their name by means of putting out these notices and not having them come forward, whereabouts are known, is a means of denying persons the ability to put themselves forward as an elector on elections day.
On the flip side, Commissioner Alexander said the National Registration Act does provide for the removal of names, but noted that this process is to provide an opportunity to voters, since 2 previous attempts to locate them proved futile.
That's not the issue. The issue is that we're giving them an opportunity to let us know all that you were asking about. They're being given the opportunity. So no one is just simply denying them the opportunity.
Ben, in response to how many stand to be disenfranchised by the process if it is agreed to, said that approximately 20,000 persons could be removed from the NRR. To this end, both commissioners from the opposition side stress that such a move will result in another court challenge, which could further delay the elections, as is the intent of the coalition-nominated commissioners. However, Alexander also said that there is a final place for the matter to be settled, but reiterated that it is not their intention to disenfranchise anyone. He concluded that the government-aligned commissioners will not be going to court since it is the opposition's failure to reach a decision that is actually resulting in a delay.
We are not going to court.
If they take it,
They will be delayed.
and that will
They have delayed in the past and blamed me. So they will be delaying again to blame me.
Recently, GCOM was forced to withdraw an order that had required registered persons to turn up at offices countrywide with their registration records to prove their existence. That order was replaced with the customary claims and objections period. Reporting from the Ghana Elections Commission in Kingston, for Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
Meanwhile, leader of the five-party political party, a Partnership for National Unity, President David Granger has confirmed that initial talks between himself and leader of the newly formed Liberty and Justice Party, Lennox Schumann, have commenced with the aim of finding common ground.
Mr. Schumann has given me the assurance that there are areas of convergence between the Liberty and Justice Party, LJP, and what he thinks the APNU stands for. So we have not actually come to any agreement. The talks are exploratory, but he is convinced that there is a wide area of convergence between the policies of our partnership and his party. We are already 5 parties in APNU, and the AFC, which is not in APNU, makes a 6th party in the coalition.
The JLP leader told sections of the media that while his party held talks with a new and united party, ANOG, he said that he was disappointed that Ralph Ramkaran was their choice for presidential candidate. According to him, even if he wanted to join forces with the ANOG, their choice for presidential candidate wasn't a representation of youth, and he feels that this should be championed by all parties. The president was asked whether he is concerned that Schumann, a former executive of the National Two-Shows Council, being a dual citizen and holding a Canadian passport, the president had this to say.
Dual citizenship has nothing to do with leadership of a political party. It has everything to do with entering the National Assembly or being appointed to the cabinet, and we haven't got from there.
Schumann told Starbuck News that talks with the APNU AFC leader was not centered or at any ministerial party or position, but merely to discuss developmental plans each party has for Guyana and how they could fuse those together. Join us at 19:30 hours or 7:30 p.m. right here on Facebook or YouTube for one of our live political talk shows where JLP Schumann and ANOG's Ramkaran will speak about third parties in Guyana. The program will be moderated by political strategist Salim Nasiruddin. Remember to subscribe to our social media pages for the latest in all shows and news. In other news, the Public Health Ministry is set to roll out its 2019 Mass Drug Administration exercise later this month in several regions, with an increase in the drug therapy as they work towards the elimination of lymphatic filariasis. More in this report. This information was revealed by the Director of the Vector Control Service Unit at the Public Health Ministry, Dr. Horace Cox, at a media sensitization session on Tuesday. Dr. Cox pointed out that the previous MDA exercise, based on a national prevalence survey done in 2001, was focused on regions 3, 4, 5, and 10, as these were identified as the highly endemic areas.
So, even though we were achieving successful coverage, it was of notice that we were not getting it in all the regions that we needed to, meaning that our geographical coverage was not 100%, rather it was at 44%. And as a result, in order for us to achieve elimination, as persons would have indicated on previous occasions, we need to ensure that we can achieve 100% geographical coverage.
He explained that a remapping survey was done last year and it identified regions 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, and 9 as endemic areas severely in need of the MDA exercise.
In the remapping survey, the Ministry of Public Health, with support from the Pan American Health Organization, would have targeted school-age population, 6 to 14 years, and basically we set as criteria that if, in terms of prevalence within a given geographical zone, we surpass 2%, then this unit would be classified as an endemic unit, and therefore we would need to implement mass drug administration exercise.
According to the director, the 2019 exercise will commence later this month. The added adjustment to this year's campaign is a shift from the 2-pill regimen to 3 pills, MDA-IDA, a recommendation from the World Health Organization that was implemented. Lymphatic filariasis is a parasitic disease caused by 3 species of microscopic thread-like worms. The adult worms live in the human lymph system. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shakima Day. This information was revealed by the... Remember to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest in news in Guyana, the Caribbean, and around the world. Coming up on the other side of the break, 2 life sentences for a man who murdered stepdaughter and mother-in-law. And President Granger explains decision behind COI into horrific East Bank Demerara accident.
Globespan GT is a proud sponsor of Globespan 24x7 News. Here are some exciting news from Globespan GT. Fares have dropped for next year, starting January 20 to August. American Airlines has cheap fares on non-stop flights to New York. Flights are as low as $306 one way and $540 round trip, all tax included. Take advantage of these cheap fares on American Airlines non-stop flights to New York. Globespan has also cheap fares to Miami, Toronto, Canada, and the Caribbean. Call Globespan GT in Georgetown at 227-1701, that's 227-1701, or in Rose Hall call 337-4298, and New Amsterdam at 333-6230. That call Globespan GT in Georgetown at 227-1701, that's 227-1701, or in Rose Hall call 337-4287, and in New Amsterdam at 333-6230.
Thanks for staying tuned. We'll continue tonight's news by telling you 48-year-old Joshua Franklin was earlier today given 2 life sentences by Justice Sandil Kissoon for the 2014 murders of his 55-year-old mother-in-law and his 9-year-old niece. The accused admitted that on December 18, 2014, at Tushan Housing Scheme, East Bank Demerara, he gruesomely murdered Bibi Zalima Khan and young Ashley Boodoo. Franklin, who was represented by attorney-at-law Mark Conway, was initially charged with murder but opted to plead to the lesser count of manslaughter. State Prosecutor Abigail Gibbs told the court that the accused used his skill as a cane cutter and brutally murdered his stepdaughter and mother-in-law. Justice Kissoon sentenced him to 2 life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 30 years. The sentences will run concurrently. Meanwhile, presenting her letters of credence to President David Granger earlier today, the new ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Guyana, UT Keong, said the 2 countries share common interests in global affairs. At the accreditation ceremony, Ambassador Keong gave assurance that over the duration of her tenure in Guyana, she will continue the cordial ties enjoyed between both countries, which are founded on cooperation for mutual benefit, respect for international law and treaties, and the maintenance of international peace and security.
I feel privileged to continue working to further our excellent bilateral relations and the relations between the European Union and the Caribbean Community and Common Market, as well as CARICOM, and to represent my country as the first female German ambassador to Guyana.
Meanwhile, the Guyanese head of state in his remarks relayed that Guyana and Germany are both vulnerable to adverse effects of climate change. He noted that Guyana is in transition to becoming a green state, which will see an increased emphasis on the protection of our environment and the adaptation of practical measures to ensure climate adaptation.
Guyana is cognizant of Germany's continued efforts in advancing the protection of the environment and addressing climate change. Guyana attaches great significance to these issues and is moving towards the establishment of a green state. Your Excellency, I am confident that our shared commitment to overcome the challenges of climate change will foster strong relations for our two countries and fulfill our global obligations. Guyana is
The two countries have also cooperated in the areas of education, health, and sports, and have collaborated at the international forums, such as the signing of an agreement for the third phase of the Guyana Protected Area Systems project. In other news, President David Granger has ordered a commission of inquiry into yesterday's horrific accident at Friendship East Bank, Demerara, which claimed the lives of 5 persons. But many are already questioning whether this is a fact necessary at this point. The president gave reasons for his decision.
Guyanese are still reeling from the horrific accident at Friendship on the east bank of Demerara that claimed the lives of 5 persons, including a newlywed couple, early Tuesday morning. The accident reportedly occurred at around 5:30 hours when a police vehicle driven by Constable Ronald Barker of the Presidential Guard slammed into motor vehicle PPP 515 driven by Guyana Defense Force Sergeant Leon Tucker. The vehicles were proceeding in opposite directions. Head of State President David Granger has ordered a commission of inquiry to be conducted into the accident. The president, speaking at the sidelines of an event this morning, recalled that when he visited the scene, the image of dead bodies strewn on the road will be forever etched into his memory.
It's very difficult for me to describe my emotions from a personal point of view. It was very distressing to see, poor dead, 4 bodies on the road at that hour in the morning. Extremely distressing. I hope I never have to witness a scene like that again.
According to the president, there was no reason for the driver of the police vehicle to be speeding at that time of the accident.
It was inexplicable that at 5:45 in the morning, clear morning, no rain, no obstacles on the road, there could be such a horrific accident. One vehicle coming up from Georgetown, I presume, the other coming down, moving northwards. There's no reason, it is not as though there were animals or some obstacles on the road which had to be avoided.
Further, he said that more attention needs to be paid to the selection of drivers for the presidential convoy to ensure that such incidents never occur again.
Third, from a governmental and administrative point of view, I must admit that from the time of the arrival of the fleet of vehicles from the People's Republic of China, we had instructed, the NSE had instructed that there should be careful selection of drivers. The vehicles should be regularly inspected and maintained to be free of mechanical faults. There should be careful supervision of the use of those vehicles so they last as long a time as possible. And
in a previous statement released, President Granger added that steps will also be taken to ensure that regulations, standing operating procedures, inspections, and careful selection and training of drivers are measures which are put into place. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shakima Day.
Investigations are ongoing into the robbery of a diamond businesswoman who was shot by an armed bandit while she was opening up her business establishment, Best Value Pawn Shop, located upstairs at the Harbour Bridge Mall earlier this morning. According to information received, Neela Singh, 42, was at the mall when she was approached by a male assailant brandishing a gun. The bandit reportedly grabbed the woman's bag and a scuffle ensued, during which she was shot in the leg and the bandit escaped with the bag. She was rushed to the Georgetown Public Hospital and is listed in a stable condition. In this next report, officials of the Customs Anti-Narcotic Unit interdicted a quantity of suspected compressed marijuana at Parika on Tuesday, October 15, 2019, at around 0100 hours. Kanu said the drugs were uncovered at the Parika Public Road, East Bank, Essequibo. 2 persons were arrested. This included Shafiq Latif, 39, of 535 Tushan New Housing Scheme, East Bank, Essequibo, and Narish Totaram, 35, of 632 Tushan New Housing Scheme, East Bank, Essequibo. Both men were occupants of the Spacio motorcar when it was intercepted by the ranks, with 2 bulky salt bags containing the suspected narcotics in the back seat. Both men were occupants of the motorcar. The suspected narcotic is 42.824 kilograms of cannabis. Both men are in custody, assisting with investigations. We'll tell you now that the Balwant Singh Hospital is now the only hospital in Guyana to receive ISO International Standardization Certification. The hospital received its certification through Perry Johnson Registrars, Inc., who conducted a 10-day audit of the hospital to ensure that they met the standards required and will help the institution to be better equipped to offer improved services. Chief Executive Officer of the medical institution, Dr. Madhu Singh, disclosed to the media at a press conference that the certification services as a boost in Guyana's healthcare system.
What started as a casual conversation in my office with Ms. Semple has led us here today as the first hospital to be internationally certified. We are also celebrating 15 years of the existence of Dr. Balwant Singh's hospital this week, when we metamorphosed from being a lab to a hospital. We were also the first lab to be certified by the Guyana National Bureau of Standards under the then Executive Director, Dr. Chatterpal Ramcharan. That very lab is now accredited 2 years ago to the ISO 15189 standard, which makes us the only hospital in Guyana with an accredited lab. I must mention once again that none of this would have been possible without the constant guidance from Ms. Walcott and Ms. Semple.
According to the CEO, the hospital now offers the complete package to provide quality health care.
Our Assisted Reproductive Technology Department is one of the many services that was certified, and I would like to take this opportunity to announce our success rate in our last batch of IVF patients, which has been an astounding 70%. This rate compares very favorably with international IVF success rates. We are very proud of being the only assisted reproductive technology center in Guyana and also the most reasonably priced ART services in the Caribbean. In the last 15 years, we have grown from a lab to a multi-specialty hospital, being the only hospital that provides full-time specialist care in all our specialties. Our specialists are engaged exclusively at Dr. Balwant Singh's hospital. Of note, we are the only hospital that complies with the regulation that mandates direct supervision of dialysis patients by a nephrologist. We also offer high-end diagnostics such as MRI and CT scans and have the best prices and best care and maternity services, offering extremely competitive packages, thus making quality healthcare affordable to all.
The services audited during the ISO certification process include gynecology, internal medicine, general surgery, dialysis, ICU services, emergency services, assisted reproductive technology including IVF, ophthalmology, dentistry, radiology, and pediatrics. We will now take a short commercial break. Do stay tuned for regional, international, and diaspora news with Whitney Prasad at our New York studio.
To keep up with breaking news in Guyana, the rest of the Caribbean, and on the international scene, like, follow, and subscribe to Globespan 24x7's Facebook and YouTube news page. Join the conversation, get live news on the go, and news and details right here on Globespan 24x7 News.
Travelspan is a proud sponsor of Globespan 24x7 News. Travelspan has some cheap fares to Guyana on American Airlines flights. fly from January for 234 one-way and 512 round-trip. Take advantage of these cheap fares on American non-stop flights from JFK to Guyana. That's non-stop flights from JFK to Guyana starting as low as 234 one-way and 512 round-trip. And also has the cheapest fares for Christmas that starts as low as $7.99 round-trip. Travelspan celebrating 25 years in business with over 10 offices to serve you. Call 718-845-0437. That's 718-845-0437. Or book online at travelspan.com. Book early and save.
Thanks for staying tuned. Thank you, Shakima. Now let's take a look at what's happening in the diaspora. American Airlines today hosted the Get to Know Guyana Day at the JFK International Airport, which saw a cultural array of Guyana's rich heritage and culture through exhibits, food, drink, and cultural displays. The event saw cultural performances by American Airlines employees and the Guyana Cultural Association, and a feature address by the Consular General of Guyana, Barbara Atterley, based in New York, who addressed the audience by giving an in-depth description of what Guyana is like, being a multicultural nation. Let's take a look.
Bamboo fire, mexo, mexo. Bamboo fire, mexo, mexo. Bamboo fire, mexo, mexo. Bamboo fire, the most kind of fire. Bamboo fire, mexo, mexo. Bamboo fire, mexo. Bamboo fire, mexo.
Beautiful display of culture day today at the John F. Kennedy International Airport. American Airlines became the first United States-based carrier offering flights to and from Guyana. The carrier launched its new non-stop flights from Miami to Guyana in South America in December of 2018. With Guyana poised for massive growth in its oil sector, regional and international business owners have been eyeing the country's potential economic uptrend. Companies in the energy sector and other service companies have wasted no time in setting up shop in Guyana. According to Javid Razak, Director of Contracts and Proposals with Rams Logistics in Trinidad and Tobago, the island is one of the many new investors Guyana has seen over the last few years since the country's oil discovery was publicized. He said some Trinidad and Tobago companies offering taxi service and even energy-related services have already opened branches in Guyana since then and are in full operation as business is booming. Razak said his company has been doing quite a lot of work in Guyana, providing logistics services for companies in the energy sector. Guyana gained attention in the world of oil in May of 2015 when ExxonMobil announced the discovery of more than 90 meters of high-quality oil bearing sandstone reservoirs about 200 kilometers off its coastline. ExxonMobil, the main operator in Guyana, says it has discovered more than 5.5 billion barrels worth of oil beneath the country's waters in the Atlantic Ocean. According to reports reaching the media today, an 18-month-old baby was struck on the head with a wooden plank during a fight with two women on Sunday in Trinidad and Tobago. Police said a 36-year-old woman was arrested on Tuesday and being investigated for the offense of assault. According to what was reported, the blow was meant for the grandmother of the baby, Nathaniel Gale, but the child was struck as she held him in her arms. Baby Nathaniel sustained a fractured skull when he was hit on the forehead. He said he is said to be in serious but stable condition at the hospital. Witnesses told police the suspect allegedly grabbed a length of 2x4 wood lying at the side of the road and swung it at the grandmother, but the child was hit on the forehead. The grandmother rushed the child to the Chaguanas District Health Facility. Police said the child was transferred by ambulance to the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex, where he is being monitored. Police said there was no bleeding, but the child's head was swollen. The incident occurred at Enterprise Chaguanas, where the child lives with his mother, Celine Hunter, 21, and grandmother. According to a BBC report, President Donald Trump has said it is not the United States' problem if Turkey enters Syria, calling the former U.S. allies, the Kurds, no angels. The report stated that the U.S. is facing intense criticism for withdrawing its forces from Syria, which some say gave Turkey the green light to launch a cross-border offensive against Kurdish-led forces. Mr. Trump told reporters at the White House that the U.S. is not a policing agent. He said, quote, "It is time for us to go home," end quote. Turkey launched the offensive in northern Syria a week ago to push back from its border members of a Syrian Kurdish militant called the People's Protection Units, YPG, and create a safe zone along the Syrian side of the border where up to 2 million Syrian refugees can be resettled. The Turkish operation came after Mr. Trump ordered the withdrawal of U.S. forces from the area. Kurdish-led forces have been a key ally of the U.S. in the fight against Islamic State in Syria, and there are fears the destabilization could lead to a resurgence of the militants. A government source has told the BBC that there will be a no deal tonight as officials continue to work on the technical deals in Brussels in the United Kingdom. The UK and EU had been hoping to sign off a revised Brexit deal before Thursday's Crunch EU Council meeting. Reporters said it was not now clear whether there would be a deal at all. Boris Johnson has been trying to get Tory Brexiters and the DUP to back his revised plan for Northern Ireland. While it may seem as the issues between the EU and the UK and Ireland were sorted out, DUP sources were warning there were still gaps between proposals and what the party could support rather. The Democratic Unionist Party has propped up the Conservative government since the 2017 general election, and their support could be vital if Parliament is approved any agreement Mr. Johnson secures. And for a look at what's happening in Africa, 8 opposition leaders have gone on trial in Guinea, accused of organizing protests against President Alpha Conde's plan to seek a third term in office. They belong to an alliance of political parties, unions, and pressure groups and face sentences ranging from 3 to 5 years. Activists say that at least 7 people have been killed since protests began on Monday in the capital. Health workers said demonstrators were shot dead by the police. The authorities have denied the security forces used firearms and say only 2 people died. After the upheaval earlier this week, the country was quiet on Wednesday, but trouble has been reported in the other towns and cities. And the leader of one of Hong Kong's largest pro-democracy groups has been taken to the hospital after being attacked. Photographs on social media showed Jimmy Sham of the Civil Human Rights Front, CHRF, lying in the streets covered in blood. It came hours after the territory's leader suspended her annual address after being heckled in Parliament. Mass protests in support of greater democracy in the territory began in June and shown no signs of abating. The CHRF said he was set upon by a group of 5 hammer-wielding men in the district and left with head injuries. It added that he was conscious as he was taken to the hospital and was resting there in a stable condition. It was the second time Mr. Sham had been attacked since the protests began. The CHRF linked the attack to government supporters who are suspected of assaulting other pro-democracy activists in the recent months. That has brought us to an end for news in the region and around the world. Here's Kumar Doshi with today's tech news, with more on near-field communication and what this means for the future of Visa and MasterCard payments and our smart wallets. Do stay tuned for more news. Whitney Prasad reporting from New York. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Whitney. Namaste, salam, and good day to everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Tech Beat on Globespan 24x7. Let's talk about near-field communication today. Near-field communication, or NFC, is a short-range wireless connectivity standard that uses magnetic field induction to enable communication between devices when they are touched together or brought within a few centimeters of each other. NFC employs inductive coupling technology in which power and data are shared through coupled inductive circuits over a very close proximity of a few centimeters. NFC is often employed through mobile phones or credit cards, where information may be read if it is passed very close to another such device or NFC tag. There are various uses of NFC. payment using NFC integrated smart cards offer easier payment. We can make the payment by simply tapping the payment terminal if it supports NFC. Top payment services like Visa and MasterCard are offering NFC-enabled smart cards to customers. We can also use the same method of tapping and paying from our e-wallets on the phones if they have the NFC chip. Integrated smart chips can be used to replace traditional ticketing systems with smart tickets for airlines, trains, buses, etc. Customers will be able to access a reserved area or activate tickets by just tapping the NFC tags. Like any technology, NFC has its own pros and cons. So let's look at the pros first. The convenience of paying is one of the system's greatest advantage. NFC makes it very easy for users to make instant payments via their smartphones and tablets using their mobile wallets. NFC is very versatile in that it covers a range of different industries and services. This mode of payment can be used for the purpose of reserving restaurant seats, movie passes, booking train tickets, and many more. NFC is seamless and has a better user experience. There are some cons in this technology. It may prove to be too expensive for companies to adopt to NFC-enabled technology, to purchase, maintain related machines and other equipment. Some well-established companies have adopted this technology, but not all. Not all phones have the NFC chip inside of them, and we can usually find them on higher-end phones. NFC technology will play an inevitable role in future smart devices for more integrated functions, smart transportation, aviation industry, and transportation, etc. Integrating NFC technology with a modern data communication and transaction processes ensures convenience, time saving, energy efficiency, and most importantly, improved security. This wraps up for today's Tech Beat. I'm Kumar Doshi bringing tech news from India. Back to the studio in Guyana for more news to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Kumar. We'll now take a look at our bridge reports. Now for a look at what's happening in the world of sport with Kingsley Bryan.
Defending champions of the annual GT Bear Keep Your Five Alive futsal tournament, Sparta Boss, will be set to prove their worth against Charlotte Street when the tournament begins on Thursday at the National Gymnasium. Apart from the anticipated exciting matchup between Sparta and Charlotte Street, upsetters and Badayard will get things going from 19 hours, which is the time the tournament will kick off. Next in the proposed lineup are Northeast versus Back Circle, Leopold versus Avocado Ballers, Showstoppers versus LA Ballers, BS versus the Stabrook Ballers, and Tiger Bay versus Bagotstown. Bent Street and Broad Street will do battle in the 7th game of the night, followed by Alexander Village taking on Old School Ballers. Action in this year's competition is set to run for 7 days, each night promising futsal fans an evening of non-stop football action. The teams participating in this year's tournament are Gold is Money, Sparta Boss, Leopold Street, Tiger Bay, All Boys Town, Bayview, Melanie, Vides Avocado Ballers, Future Stars, Back Circle, Northeast Le Penitents, Showstoppers, Broad Street, Alexander Village, GWI, Upsetters, LA Ballers, Bagotstown, Sophia, Spot 7, Charlotte Street, Old School Ballers, and Bend Street. And we'll tell you that Brandon King, who was amazing with the bat for the Warriors side in the recently concluded Hero CPL 2019, and leg spinner for the Barbados Tridents, Hayden Walsh Jr., are set to make their international cricket debut after being named by the West Indies Cricket Board to be featured in both limited overs squads to face Afghanistan next month. However, this year's lineup will not feature the likes of Darren Bravo or former 2020 skipper Carlos Brathwaite. The 24-year-old King has been included in the squad following a sterling batting performance in the just concluded CPL and the last regional first-class season. And he has now been selected for the highest format in the November 5 to December 1 series in India, which also includes a one-off test. The 27-year-old Walsh Jr. already has some level of international experience, after he featured in an ODI and 8 T20 internationals for the United States, but was born in the U.S. Virgin Islands and has represented Leeward Islands in the past. Walsh, whose late father, Hayden Sr., played first-class cricket for Leewards, made the selection after a stunning performance during the recent CPL with 22 wickets for eventual champions Barbados Tridents, to be adjudged man of the series. And Jamaican sprint queen Shelly Ann Fraser-Price has been named to a shortlist for the 2019 IAAF Female World Athlete of the Year Award. The 32-year-old Fraser-Price set the track alight at the Doha World Championships this year, after clocking 10.71 to claim her fourth 100-meter world title. The power athlete is back to the peak of her performance, after taking time off to have her first child 2 years ago. Fraser-Price's winning time was the fastest in the world over the distance this year, edging out compatriot Elaine Thompson's 10.73. Joining the Jamaican on the overall list of 11 athletes is Beatrice Chepek, Katrina Johnson-Thompson, Sifan Hassan, Bridget Koshgay, Maria Latix-Keen, Malaika Mahambo, Delilah Muhammad, Salwa Eid Nasser, Helen Obiri, and Yulimar Rojas. Fraser-Price, who won the award in 2013 after claiming the sprint double at the Moscow World Championships, will face stiff competition for the top prize this year, since the other nominees have also performed outstandingly for the year. That's all for sports for today. Join us tomorrow as we bring you updated sport in action in the Globespan 24x7 News Sportcast.
And that has brought us to the end of today's news. But before you go, here's a recap of our major headlines. Chief Justice denies order seeking President Cabinet to resign. Two men nabbed by police with over 90 pounds of marijuana. Businesswoman shot during robbery at C&F Harbour Bridge Mall. President explains decision behind COI into horrific East Bank Demerara accident. And a man who killed mother-in-law, stepdaughter, gets life in prison. Thank you for watching Globespan 24x7 News. On behalf of myself, Shakima Day, and the news and technical team in Guyana, New York, and India. Until next time, do have a great evening.